Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto received a mysterious package that changed his destiny forever, and Hinata became the only girl who believed in the future strongest Hokage. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Hatake Kakashi, the silver-haired heart-throb to his fangirls, and fear-mongering titan to his enemies just wanted a nice peaceful day with his stress-relieving novel by his favorite author, Jiraiya no Sannin. He planned to do just that after a quick drop-by to the council meeting as requested by the Hokage. An hour later, I don't give a rat's is what you civilian bitches want. I will not take the Uchiha unless Uzumaki is placed on my team. I'm the Jonin instructor and will fail his back to the first year of the academy. Fuck with me if you want to. I have watched him for the last few weeks and I am not impressed. You all pander to his every whim and have turned him into a pampered little shit. I hold no reservations with not training someone who will not be a benefit to Konoha's forces. And I see some of you getting red in the face. Well, too fucking bad. I have too much self-respect than to bend to the whim of a civilian council who shouldn't even be in this conversation. These are ninja matters. Oh, and there is another here in the room with the Sharingan. Shimura Danzo. Danzo isn't surprised often, but even he couldn't hide the look of shock that spread across his features. The Mangekyo Sharingan at that. So the old war hawk would be equally as qualified to teach the little shit. So please give me one more reason I can't have Uzumaki Naruto. And if I am somehow forced to be his sensei, I will make his life a living hell. You don't like it, I will surrender my Hitayate and move on to greener pastures. A friend to Konoha, but never again a shinobi under its banner. And before one of you threatens to rip out my Sharingan, remember it is just that. Mine. I was gifted it by Uchiha Obito on his deathbed and it was confirmed by my teammate Nohara Rin at the time, and my sensei, the Yondaime Hokage, might I remind you, accepted that fact and documented it in the Hokage STEM document system, which is tamper-proof. Kakashi released a large amount of killing intent upon the combined room of civilians and shinobi alike. No one had seen Kakashi this dark and quite frankly scary in many years. Not since he lost his sensei. They forgot for a brief moment that Kakashi was feared across all 5 great nations as the A, bordering on S-rank shinobi, Sharingan no Kakashi among other monikers such as Reikiri no Kakashi, as only one person ever survived the attack to tell about it. Upon Kakashi's revelation of Danzo's Sharingan, 4 members of Anbu appeared before Danzo in a protective formation. The lone Nara in the room, and Jonin commander of Konoha's forces sighed and said, "Troublesome. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Everyone is going to stand down, or there will be unrest here today, and that is something none of us really needs. I vote to put Uzumaki with Hatake. We can't afford to lose a shinobi of Hatake's skill over some bigoted civilians acting foolish." No one moved as even they knew not to mess with a pissed-off Kakashi. Kakashi gave a small nod to Nara Shikaku in thanks for his support, then turned to his leader without dropping his guard in the slightest as his hand was still laying gently upon his Tonto and his other upon a kunai. He bowed a bit and stated, "I apologize for my behavior, Hokage-sama. It was rude to interrupt your meeting's progression as such, but I believe it's far past time to remind the civilian," he emphasized with a snarl, "council who actually runs this village. You, a shinobi. They have no business having so much power, if any, in that arena. They are the main ones trying to keep me away from my requested student and trying to force him to remain in the academy as well despite defeating and detaining a traitor not even 2 days ago. If I wasn't there myself to see the end results, I bet they would lick the Uchiha's balls by saying it was him when he was home asleep in his family's 2-story house." After a few seconds' contemplation, Hiruzen stated authoritatively, "Hatake Kakashi, your request to be removed from your current post and reinstated as a Jonin, approved. Your request to take on Uzumaki Naruto, approved. Should I perish before Uzumaki Naruto proves his boast of taking my hat, you, Jiraiya, and Tsunade are my chosen successors. If for some reason Danzo is not executed for disobeying my orders and manages to make a run for my hat, you are the first line of defense against it. Oh, and take the Uchiha. If his arrogance gets in the way, break him. Shatter him and build him back up. We can't have an obsessed avenger in our ranks." But Hokage-sama, some of the civilians started. Silence. The Sandaime Hiruzen roared again. I am the Hokage of this village. And I'd better not find out any of you went bitching to the daimyo. He is our money, but I am the backbone to our strength. Who do you really want to piss off? Now to you, old friend. Shimura Danzo, you will be detained and questioned about said Sharingan and these agents who were to be disbanded years ago. Do not resist, or be eliminated. Hiruzen didn't like the fact that he had to do that to his longtime friend. His two advisors and former teammates were about to speak on Danzo's behalf before being interrupted by two of the Hokage's Anbu appearing before him in a protective stance. Clear the room, Hiruzen's voice soft, but fierce. It was cleared with the exception of his 4 Anbu and Danzo and his 2 Anbu loyal only to him. Has it really come to this? Have you the desire to be Hokage so bad that you would blatantly disobey my decrees and lurk in the shadows when such services are not needed, currently? Danzo sighed as he slowly stood in preparation of what could possibly be a cage-level battle of 2 of the Leaf's oldest and fiercest warriors of a time past. If you'd shown this level of shrewdness for the last 10 years or so, I would not have felt the need to do so. I do everything I do for the sake of this village. Horizon sighed as he relayed, I know. But you outright defied me. You know I cannot let this pass. I would be seen as weak by the rest of my forces in the village. I don't want to kill you. But unless you can come up with something better, I will have no choice but to eliminate you once and for all. Especially after that stunt a few years ago with Naruto. Yes, I knew about the agent. I saw the Anbu agent Inu take his head. After a moment, Danzo decided to try his hand at diplomacy. What if I could, after a few years, bring your pet Uchiha back home as a hero, without making the clan as a whole look bad? Hiruzen's eyes narrowed dangerously as he stated, I'm listening. Nearly 3 years passed. It took me a while to figure things out. I ran through the village as you've probably heard a time or 10 before, but I have had enough. The old man Hokage listens to me, and says he's sorry I am chased, mocked, ignored and whatever else those bastard villagers deem the demon deserves for the day. Well, I'm sick of it. I am going to make some changes around here. I have to be careful though. I found one small thing. A trinket if you will. A possible line to my past. And today, I will turn that into my golden ticket. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am the one who will change this village. I will make them see past whatever darkness hovers over me. I will become the Godime Hokage. Or die trying. A young blonde boy of 10 years old received a small box left in his apartment earlier that day. His first instinct was to toss it out of the window. Only the Hokage brought him gifts, but it wasn't his birthday or Christmas. Against his better judgment, he pulled out a small pocket knife an old ramen shop chef gave him for protection in secret after seeing how Naruto was treated firsthand one day. He cherished it, and put it to good use as he carefully cut around the outside of the box to see the inside contents rather than the top. To his surprise and relief, the box was not rigged to explode. The nature of living in a shinobi village. Naruto pulled out the first item. A small mahogany box, and inside of it a few things, starting with the letter. Dear Sochi, I don't know what could have happened to keep your mother and I away from you. We were so excited to see you born, and decided to make this before your birth. I am your Otu-san Minato. Namikaze Minato. Naruto dropped the letter, in shock. He now knew he had the wrong box. Every school child who entered the Shinobi Academy knew the name Namikaze Minato. He was the Yondaime, the legendary yellow flash of Konoha. The 4th in the legacy of Hokage. Naruto knew he would never be that lucky. He went back to the letter as to hopefully find a clue to who the letter actually belonged to. He would do whatever he could to get the package to the right person. Your Ka-san, my beautiful wife, Namikaze, ne Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki, Kushina, Uzumaki, Naruto. Naruto felt his eyes start to tear up. He might not be alone. He might have family still alive, but his hopes were dashed when he decided to take a look at the list of fallen heroes every shinobi and academy student kept in honor of those who gave their lives in protection to the village. Beside her name was a gold star. The highest honor Konoha could give. Naruto couldn't decide whether to smile or cry, so he did a little of both. He took a moment to compose himself and reached over and grabbed the letter and the box and moved to his living room where he continued reading on his small love seat. She was a fiery type. She used to yell about how she would be the Hokage. When we found out we were having you, I was already Hokage, and Kushina's priorities changed a little bit as she said she would wait for the time when you take the hat instead. Big dreams, Sochi. I had one of my most loyal Anbu Inu hold this box until he thought you were old enough to understand. I know Hiruzen, and he would have likely taken back over as Hokage if I died for some reason. I asked him to keep our identities hidden for your safety. At least until you were 12 or Chunin, but if Inu gave this to you first, then he believes you are ready. Don't rat out Inu. The Sandame would have his head for not waiting until he decided you were ready. Haha. The keys in this box are to our house. I used seals and placed chakra into the seals daily to build up a massive security system. So only you and my teacher, your godfather Jiraiya, can get in. But even he can't get in past the main gate without your blood. So just use a drop of your blood and use the hand seals Inu, Taka, Hubby, Ryu. I know they are slightly unorthodox, but once you do those seals and add a little chakra, the residents will recognize you as its new master. Your Ka-san and I have worked on a curriculum for you to help you with chakra control, which is extremely important. Then you can start studying jutsu in the order presented. I also left a chakra scale. If you are anything like your Ka-chan was as a kid, you have an unnaturally large amount of chakra. If so, doing simple things like the clone technique will be nearly impossible for you, but we have outlined some things to help with this. Your Ka-chan, Jiraiya and I have also composed a specialized book specifically for you to study Fuinjutsu from. It will seem boring at first, mind-numbing in some ways, but please study it hard. It will give you an edge and protect you. Your Ka-chan's clan is sadly no more, but at one time they were feared across the 5 great elemental nations. You have fallen into greatness, my son, but please do not let this get to your head. Many have fallen when given power. I would have preferred you earned it, but if you have this, then Kushina and I aren't there to guide you, love you, and even discipline you when you need it. So let the lessons we leave for you guide you toward Konoha's will of fire. The fire fierce enough to burn all of our enemies to ash, but passionate enough to protect our village and loved ones. A lesson I actually learned from a student of mine you should also take to heart as well. Those who break the rules are scum. But those who abandon their friends, family, or comrades in arms are far worse. I am sure I have another letter or two around our compound somewhere, but for now, just take in what I have said and know that your Ka-chan and I love you very much. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Your 2-san, Namikaze Minato. Smiley face. P.S. Treat Inu as you would a well-respected elder brother. He is charged with protecting you and your mother from the vilest, darkest of our village's underworld. He is, or was from your standpoint, my precious student Hitaki Kakashi. Oh, on a side note, in case you were wondering, you were named for the definition Maelstrom, not the other definition of your name, Fishcake, haha. You were named after the hero of Jiraiya Sensei's first book, Tales of a Gutsy Ninja. They are rare, and hard to find, unlike his other works which are nothing but smut and should be avoided at all cost. Naruto fell asleep with tears in his eyes, only to wake up with a start, and finished looking through the box. He read the instructions and placed the cloth-encrusted tags on his person and added as little chakra as he could. His weight nearly doubled. Fortunately he read the emergency verbal counter command before the weights crushed him. It released 40% of the weight, which was enough for Naruto to stand and move around again. Naruto chose not to take the weights off as they would supposedly make him stronger and faster. The cloth fell off, but the seals seemed to be permanent. They vanished on Naruto's skin, but he could still sense them. Knowing this was a gift from his parents, he felt a little stronger already. Naruto did what he was instructed to do, and found his way to his parents' old home. It was hidden away and took him nearly an hour to sneak through the village and the prying eyes of Anbu. Or so he thought. 1. Anbu, member took note of the 10-year-old's covert actions and went to intervene on his master's behalf. The demon should be nowhere near the venerable Yondaime's hallowed estate. But as this emotionless drone of a man's blade could finish descending upon Naruto, another blade countered it, thus catching Naruto's attention. He knew of this Anbu as he had saved him a few times in the past from a few rowdy and overzealous villagers. His mask that of the dog, Inu, Naruto thought in awe as he made short work of the assailant, his head on the ground, while the body still stood stock still. Naruto then wretched as he realized he had just seen someone killed in front of his very eyes. He quickly shook it off and accepted the hand offered to him as he replied respectfully, yet silently in case others were within earshot. Demo, arigato gosaimashite Kakashi ni sama. Naruto's words caught Inu slightly off guard, but he gave a slight nod in acknowledgement of the thanks, looked around and used all of his training to see if there were others lurking about. Fortunately there were none. Inu performed a few hand seals and put up a small Anbu-level privacy barrier. Inu sighed as he wasn't really supposed to be talking to Naruto, but he said, use the laundry room in the basement of your apartment building. There are 3 tunnels there that I spent a few years building with a little help to keep you safe. Use the middle one. It will lead you to the basement of your parents, your family home. It's one of the reasons I kept getting to you so fast, instead of through Konoha's traffic. Go in through washer number 3. I had a sample of your blood from an altercation a few years back and used it the same way you were about to attempt to open this gate, but I don't know the seals for this gate, don't tell me. Not yet anyway. Wait until I've earned that right should I ever. He continued before Naruto could obviously object. He could see it in his eyes. I need to report to the Hokage what I have done. I can only pray that he forgives me for breaking his law and informing you of your heritage. Naruto then grinned, despite the grim kill around him. You didn't reveal anything. My 2-chan did. I just happened to find a letter from him after I found my family's estate. The only reason I got in was because a bit of my blood got on the gate after a small trip, and it opened for me. Maybe a glitch in the security system. Naruto lied perfectly, much to Inu's shock. You would lie to the Hokage. I know how close you are. We are, and I love my village for some reason or another. So I figure, you tried to help me to be safe here. If I am safe, I can secretly train and get stronger. And he need not even know about this needlessly, right? Inu was starting to like this kid's style. Inu turned around and gave Naruto a few seconds privacy as he performed his hand seals and drew the required drop of blood. Inu was concerned, as Naruto was not supposed to know of this place. Without turning around, Inu asked, how do you plan on keeping this place a secret? I am training to be a shinobi for a reason. Stealth, silence and ingenuity. I might not be great at the latter 2 yet, but I am getting better at stealth. I keep you boys running for a good hour or 2 searching after a good prank. That's part of my stealth training since the only instructor at the academy that seems to give a damn about me is Yumino Iruka. Now there's a man I wouldn't mind being like. I could see someone like him being Hokage if he got stronger, but not before me. Naruto added that last part as an afterthought. Inu didn't laugh often, even in his youth, but he did chuckle a little at that, as he knew of the young Chunin and his former penchant for being a Konoha prankster. Naruto realized Inu was deep in thought, but cleared his throat and got the man's attention. I was told to give you respect, and as you have been watching over me even now, where I didn't even know you were there, you've earned it. I don't really know how I can pay you back, but you have a friend and a little brother in me. If you need me, call on me. I will not forget your kindness, ever ni-sama. He said before he slowly closed the gate behind him and made his way up the yard to the house and performed the same technique. 10 minutes later, Hokage Tower. Inu arrived with a standard Anbu capture seal, but his stance was more rigid than normal. Sarutobi Hiruzen was a man in his late 60s. He did not become known as the Kami no Shinobi without being observant. His voice tired, yet his eyes shrewd ordered, Inu, report. Inu laid out the seal before the aged Hokage and revealed a masked head. The mask was the old Ne, or Root Anbu, which was ordered disbanded nearly 20 years prior. While Hiruzen figured a small division of the old guard still existed under his old friend and rival Shimura Danzo, he knew that if Inu brought this forward, something damning was coming, and he would be prepared, one way or another. Sir, Inu treaded carefully. Uzumaki Naruto was training out near the old Uzumaki compound when this piece of garbage attacked him. I was forced to reveal myself to Naruto, to a point. He told me he'd seen me a few times when I'd saved him. I had always thought he was out of sight, but he is better at stealth than we'd given him credit for. But he didn't ask much. He respectfully thanked me, then moved on, stating, there must be a reason I'm not permitted to talk to him, and he would not be the one to get his guardian in trouble. Being the Hokage, he knew Kakashi was lying through his teeth. He'd seen Kakashi take the boy a package with his infinite vision jutsu, granted to him via the summoning clan Saru. But Kakashi was no fool and has a lot of powerful friends upon the Shinobi Council. So he would just wait and see just what Kakashi had done, for he was a very patient man. Otherwise he wouldn't have made it to such a ripe old age. So instead of ripping Inu a new one, he dismissed him for the time being. He looked up and another Anbu appeared before him wearing the identical armor as the Anbu captain who just left. At the dismissal of the Hokage, Inu vanished in a flurry of leaves which miraculously disappeared with him. Hiruzen decided against checking in on Naruto just yet. Let the days ahead be the deciding factor as to his potential fate. Meanwhile, at Naruto's family home, he had found 2 books on the bookshelf almost immediately upon opening his father's study. A book on chakra control, and a book to help those with an abundant amount of chakra best utilize it. Naruto, against the advice of his 2-san, could not help but test one of the jutsu. A way to create solid clones. But he didn't dare try it until he gauged his chakra on the strange contraption his 2-san informed him of. It showed where his mother's was at her zenith as marked by a red pen and even noted where the specific jutsu he wanted to learn could be done without something called chakra exhaustion. Naruto had a little more than half of what she did, and knew it would only grow in time. He then started studying. He hated studying with a passion, but after 4 hours, he managed to complete the jutsu. He fell asleep for the next 2 hours, having drained a good amount of his chakra learning the technique. Before taking a quick nap, he checked his levels again. He was down to 25%. He now knew a baseline for what not to get near. After a few hours, Naruto looked back over the cloning technique he learned, and realized something he missed. Memories returned to the creator. Never had he had more inspiration to prank than he did at that moment in time, but opted to hold that back until some foolish villager really pushed his, or her luck. Naruto then looked around and gawked as he realized the house barely had any dust in it. He feared looking in the refrigerator. He then created a dozen clones, despite attempting to only create 2. Hey, we don't want to do this crap any more than you do. One clone cried out, much to Naruto's surprise. Naruto then scrunched up his nose, but his head held high and went forward bravely, and his clone brigade followed closely behind their noble leader. Naruto opened the fridge to see a bottle of something in a black liquid sealed in a bottle. The refrigerator was otherwise spotless as well. He couldn't figure out how, but that was a mystery for another day. No massive odor erupted from the door as the group expected. Naruto held his nose and opened the container and poured the liquid down the toilet and flushed. Thankfully it flushed successfully. Naruto thanked Kami his parents had a still viable canister of air freshener in the bathroom on the back of the toilet. Naruto felt his stomach grumble, and then those of his clones did the same. Naruto was about to slam his clones back to oblivion, but was stopped by one of them. Dude, you've got anger issues. We can dispel ourselves, or you can use the half-ram to mentally do it. Remember. Oh, sorry guys. Take it easy. Thanks for your help. Maybe we could get some ramen together next time I summon you guys, if it works like that. Ichiraku's, the group said in unison, much to Naruto's joy. They really were made of him after all. Naruto dispelled the group of his compatriots, and grabbed a backpack he found in a closet. It was brand new and had the red swirl on it. Naruto liked it. He placed some of the less important looking books into the backpack and left via the basement via Inu's instructions. He found a secret hatch below the carpet at the corner of the room. He eventually made it home, but realized he didn't have any food stocked. He took a look at the clock on his dresser and realized if he busted he just might make it to grab a bowl of ramen from Ichiraku Ramen. He took the bag with him as he didn't quite trust anyone to not break in, again while he wasn't home. He flew down the stairs and past the snooty landlord. Naruto pushed the limits of his muscles, having forgotten that he was wearing seals which added extra resistance. He made his way all the way to Ichiraku and slid under the curtain right as the owner Chuki was about to close shop. Sorry Naruto, but we're closing shop, the old man said, without malice. Please old man, I got distracted training, and studying, he added the second part with obvious distaste in his mouth. I didn't have time to go shopping today. Tsuki thought about making Naruto go without, to help him learn responsibility, but when Naruto mentioned studying, he couldn't help but smile a little in pride. You're lucky, I should make you go without. But you studying is a rarity. I can't even charge you for your food tonight. Ayame, a 3-bowl Naruto special setup. A tired-looking teen with large beautiful eyes and brown hair stepped out of the back in a scarf on her head. Ooh, my little Naruto-kun is here to see me before I go for the night, she said as she blew a small kiss at the 10-year-old. She knew he had a small little crush on her, but it was more so a brother-sister relationship, and they both knew that. Nei-chan, Naruto whined as she poured him 3 bowls of ramen. 2 for there and 1 to take with him. After a nice meal and good company for a while, Naruto started to make his way home. But of course, somebody wanted a piece of it, or so he'd heard. Naruto watched as a large group of 15 civilians, and a few young nin surround him. He wasn't in the mood to run away. He stopped aside, and picked up a thin metal pole as he set down his food. I'm not going to run tonight. I am not going to hide. I am only going to say this once. Get the hell out of my way, or I am going to beat the shit out of you. Civilian, shinobi, I don't give a damn. Fuck with me if you want to, and I am going apeshit tonight. You feel me? Look, the little demon grew a pair, one civilian sneered. I'm no demon, but keep talking, I'll become one just for you. Naruto replied equally venomous. 2 shinobi ran forward and slammed Naruto back against the wall and pulled out 2 kunai. Naruto didn't panic like he expected to. He simply said, nice shot, but now it's my turn. Naruto thrust his fist at the 2 who attacked him's throats, missed, as he expected, and ran up to the shinobi and ducked under a kick and grabbed the pole, turned around and swung it like a golf club up into the first ninja's nether regions. Ooh! Most of the Anbu above groaned. They were going to interfere before Inu arrived and ordered them to stand down. He was interested to see how Naruto would handle this. This is your last warning. Back up. Naruto all but wailed. No one listened. Naruto placed his hands in the half-ram sign and silently said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Those few words in conjunction with that hand sign, and chakra, 25 exact physical copies of the orange-wearing 10-year-old appeared. The Anbu nearly fell off the roof above him. Naruto's clones had managed to materialize the poles with them as well. The Narutos looked at the poles and grinned darkly. Charge! It was time for the teams to be announced. Naruto looked to his favorite academy instructor, but realized something was missing. His usual caring smile reserved for his students. Something big must have happened after their encounter with Mizuki recently. Naruto took note that someone he once tried to kill was also outside at the fence waiting on him with a sad smile on her face. Naruto had enough as he hated to see his precious people hurting. Hey sensei, Naruto inquired calmly. Yes Naruto, Iruka replied, a little more attentive. What's wrong? I see her outside with the same look as you do. I'll tell you soon Naruto. After you are put on your team tomorrow. Naruto let it go. He could tell that it was really bothering him. Naruto's first big brawl 3 years passed. A purple-haired blur appeared beside the gathered Anbu on the roof of a local deli only to see a plethora of the village prankster Uzumaki Naruto in his bright orange tracksuit pants, white tee and a black bandana with a red swirl on the front tied around his head. The bandana was new to most, but still showed enough of him to be recognized. He was brandishing a metal pole. Well, all of them were, the new arrival noted. She took stock of the expressive body language of the Anbu. That alone told her a lot as that was beaten out of them during training. After only 5 seconds of scanning and analyzing the situation, Mitarashi Anko wanted answers. Why is no one helping the Gaki, and why in the 7 blue layers of Tartarus is he doing with enough chakra already to use Kage Bunshin? Fuck that. Now that I think about it, why the fuck does a civilian child know a Jonin level Kinjutsu? Her words were silent, but the intensity was not wasted. The only one not completely terrified of the angry Kunoichi was Inu, but even he knew she was fierce as a volcano if pushed too far. Banzai! A young, loud voice screamed as he raced forward with his legion of clones. Within minutes, the group found out what the boy meant when he said he'd become a demon. He smashed heads in, broke knees, arms, and noses. But he did not kill one of them. No matter how much he wanted to. Once all was said and done, those that remained conscious, barely at most, I will be a light in our fair village. I didn't kill you because I am not like you. I am not whatever it is you think I am. I will become the Hokage and bring a change to the village. I will make it stronger than it's ever been, but not through bullying and hatred. I've been bullied. I've been persecuted for reasons I don't understand. But I am still here. I am still standing. And I will never, ever give up. He proclaimed loudly. Enko jumped down off the roof and started clapping with an impressed look on her face. Naruto, not knowing her, turned to face her with his remaining clones taking up a defensive position between him and her. Again, she was impressed with the instinctual defensive posture. Slow your roll, little orange boy. I am not here to harm you. I am a special Jonin, and unlike these idiots, I could have easily incapacitated you if I wanted to. Naruto didn't like that, but believed her for some reason. He and his clones relaxed their posture slightly as she said, "Who are you?" "Me. I'm the one who's going to be taking you on a trip to see the Hokage as know what 9-year-old should know, much less be able to pull off a Jonin-level technique," she said casually as if talking about the weather. Naruto stopped cold. His clones vanished in a puff of smoke simultaneously as Naruto nervously asked, "Do we have to tell the old man about this? I wanted to surprise him in a few years when I graduated the academy," he said, sweat pouring down his face all of a sudden. Enko could tell he was actually more afraid of the Hokage finding out early than him getting in trouble. She sighed but said, "Sorry Gaki, but I am one of the Hokage's nin, and as such, I have to report what I saw tonight, or I could get in a lot of trouble." Naruto looked to the left, then to the right as he said, "Well shit," and then took off in the opposite direction of where Enko was in her beige trench coat which was flowing openly in the wind of the young boy who just vanished. Naruto got 3 blocks away before Yumino Iruka saw him. He recognized those zigzag patterns that Naruto was attempting, as he tried the same thing in his youth. Yumino Iruka was not the fastest, or most powerful of his generation, but his mind was sharp. He calculated the best route to catch someone, and did the opposite as that is likely WHT Naruto would have done. His hunch paid off as he landed next to Naruto and gave a gentle chop to the boy's neck upon seeing Mitarashi Enko after him. He would stand by the boy's side if an inquiry came up for some reason, but his loyalty was first and foremost to the village. "Thanks Yumino. Appreciate the assist. I am taking him to tea and I to have Inoichi take a look inside the Gaki's head. Seems like the quickest way to find out what's going on here." Yumino was quick to answer, "I wouldn't do that if I were you. This boy is close to the Sandame. It would be much better to take Naruto to him." Enko was a little disappointed. She really wanted to see someone's brain fried like in those old commercials she used to see when eggs were fried. "Suit yourself. You carry him then." 10 minutes later, after an extensive apology for waking the Sandame up and forcing him back to the office at 10 at night. "So you all are telling me that Uzumaki Naruto not only beat up a group of civilians, 2 ninja, but he also performed a classified top-secret Konoha Kenjutsu?" the Sandame asked, voice tired. "The demon should be put under my care," a newly arrived Shimura Danzo stated the moment he opened the door. Killer intent was fired at him via the Sandame and Inu. Enough that his hidden agents had a hard time staying concealed, as they were conditioned to race to their master's aid, especially with that much danger present, but he instructed them to fight that instinct, especially today, especially where Uzumaki Naruto was concerned. Even Danzo wasn't foolish enough to go against the Sandame where Naruto was involved. For now. "Get out," the Sandame thundered. "Be reasonable Hiru. Shuriken, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." The Sandame roared as he tossed a single shuriken which multiplied into over 200. The group moved as soon as they saw the shuriken appear. Danzo didn't think his old friend would actually do it, but he attacked him without remorse. Danzo pulled out his sword and sliced down all but 3 shuriken which embedded themselves in the wall beside him. Hiruzen stood. Danzo simply placed his sword back in his sheath and calmly stated, "I see you are busy Hiru. Hokage-sama, perhaps another time." Danzo, cool as ice, slid out of the door, turned and walked away. "Now to the matter at hand. Naruto," Hiruzen called out, verbally nudging the boy awake. Naruto didn't know what to do when he opened his eyes and realized he was in the Hokage's office. He kinda figured he was in trouble, but decided to go with what he was best at, and that was playing the role of the fool. "Hey old man, what are you doing in my apartment?" Naruto then looked around as if just realizing he wasn't in his apartment. "Oh, okay. What did I do and how much trouble am I in this time?" Quote, "I'm glad to see you want to get down to business, Naruto. I was informed that you had another run-in with the villagers in Few Ninja this evening. It's well and good that you defended yourself. I'm glad that you felt you were finally ready to do so. But I do have a problem with you knowing a Junin level classified ninja technique, and you're not even out of the academy yet. So we could do this in a very unpleasant way and bring in a Yamanaka. You were aware of their family's jutsu sans parents' day at the academy a few weeks ago, correct?" Shit, Naruto cursed internally as he worked on reasoning out good excuse as to why he knew the shadow clone technique. "Okay, here's the story. One day when I got home a few weeks ago, there was a note beside it that said it was a chakra measuring device. It would tell me how much time I had, and I was curious as to what it could do. So I started looking into it. After I found out that I had a huge amount of chakra, I started looking into how much chakra it took to do the cloning technique, since they always looked so sickly and never came out correctly. Well, lo and behold, I had so much chakra that it would be nearly impossible for me to graduate from the academy because I would never be able to do the clone technique. That's not really fair because I could potentially learn amazing jutsu. But I'd be stuck in the academy because of that one nearly useless technique. So after I figured that out, don't know why, but I wrote a note on the device, and when I came back the device was gone, but instructions for this jutsu were left there on my bed. So someone was trying to help me for the first time. I did, however, start to get concerned that someone came and went as they pleased in my apartment, so I learned how to change the locks, and to fix the windows, which now lock by the way. As far as me graduating the academy was concerned, I don't know who did it. I just really wanted to think whatever it was because they instructions on how to do the technique, the benefits of the memory retrieval, which would help me to learn anything that I can much faster now, and warned me of the backlash sent when too many clones dispersed too fast. They also left me 2 sets of instructions, one of which was a tree walking exercise, and then something called water walking. They said that I should work on those a lot, and it would help me with chakra control to help me become a better ninja. They wrote that they had heard me proclaiming, yeah, that's right. Proclaiming that I would take your hat someday, but they couldn't show the techniques to me, or reveal themselves in any way because they could get in a lot of trouble. But they believe in me and they really want to see me succeed in taking your hat and becoming the best Hokage this village has ever had. I have burned the notes, and I have not been back in contact since." Sarutobi Hiruzen was anything but a fool. He knew that Naruto received help most likely from Inu. But Naruto's story held just enough truth to it that he could let it go. But not without some form of punishment. It was a forbidden technique for a reason. He looked to the Mitarashi Dango girl. Since Naruto decided he is big and bad enough to learn the shadow clone technique, I think it's only right that he received some personal training for a few weeks. Mitarashi, I do believe you have some leave coming up soon. I would be extremely appreciative if you took a few weeks to whip Naruto into fighting form. I want him to have the potential to be Rookie of the Year when he graduates. 3 more years, but I think you can get the ball rolling. Well, Enko had never really considered taking on students, or taking on an apprentice, but she couldn't help but allow a small sadistic grin to appear on her face. Naruto, seeing this, stood, then knelt as he'd seen shinobi do when before the Hokage. "Hokage-sama, let's not be too hasty," Naruto tried, to the Sandame's amusement. I can see the Serpent of Eden in her eyes. Naruto's pleas fell on deaf ears. He was dragged out by the scruff of his belt buckle. The Hokage then looked to Inu and inquired, "I am only going to ask this once. Was it you who taught Naruto these things, or left him these instructions?" "Negative, sir," Inu answered, more relaxed than the Hokage would have liked. It meant that Inu spoke the truth. He'd have to have Naruto watched a little more closely. Maybe Danzo had something to do with it, he pondered. Training Ground 44. Shortly after reaching the Forest of Death, Naruto realized just how much danger his life was truly in. He was thrown into an abyss full of creatures unknown. He didn't know what to do or where to go. He didn't have any weapons that he could think of at the moment or any food supplies. The crazy Kunoichi dropped him in the middle of nowhere. She left with only a few parting words. Survive the next 3 days, and I will make you one of the most vicious shinobi Konoha has ever known. While Naruto wasn't happy to be left alone, he was more than willing to do whatever it took to become the best. And the moment those words left Mitarashi Anko's mouth, she knew that he had it in him. The fierce look of determination was one she had rarely seen. She looked forward to seeing if he actually would manage to survive her training. 2 days later, 6 o'clock in the evening. Did we forget to mention it's near fall and starting to get cold? A black blur tore through the streets of Konoha. Those whose visual acuity were sharp enough to catch it saw a young boy no older than 10 riding upon the back of what looked to be a black panther. He wore a leather cloak over his torn shirt and weathered pants. His anger was focused on 2 people at the moment. 1, the Hokage who he had grown to love and respect as a grandfather. 2, the psycho bitch who had left him to die in a forest full of talking snakes and other vicious animals. Naruto swore his revenge on at least one of the 2. As the Hokage was the leader of this village, he decided that the next best option would be Mitarashi. He was thankful that his backpack was thrown into the forest with him, as it contained a few tools from his family estate. 2 kunai which he forgot he put in there, a bowl of ramen from Ichiraku Ramen from the night of the most recent attack, and his scroll on chakra control. Those 3 things allowed him to survive in that hell for 2 days. And now Naruto would enact his revenge. Mitarashi Anko, you can run, and you can hide, but know this. You have started a war with Konoha's #1 prince of revenge. The Sultan of Payback, the Emperor of Karma, and you're as mine. Young Naruto's voice rang across Konoha. Many felt a chill run down their spine that day. Doors and windows were closed and sealed. A beautiful black-haired, red-eyed kunoichi in a flak jacket dropped down in front of Naruto and his large feline companion. Much to Naruto's annoyance, the cat didn't growl at her as he'd been training her to do over the last 15 hours. Good girl Torigami, the woman said, and said cat purred, to which Naruto's jaw dropped. From your declaration of war on Anko, I take it you are the one Hokage-sama placed in her not-so-gentle care for the next 3 weeks or so. Naruto nodded carefully as he didn't know this woman from the dirt beneath his feet. But his apprehension lessened considerably when he heard a voice he rarely ever did. Kurenai-san. An adorable girl in a white jacket ran up beside her tutor in a protective position until she realized, Naruto. Kun. Naruto couldn't help it. He grinned. Hey Hinata-chan, what brings you to this neck of the woods? Seeing Naruto in torn clothes, and a bit of bare skin, she reddened, and passed out. Hinata-chan. Naruto called out in worry. Kurenai caught Hinata before she hit the ground, but also took note at how fast Naruto dismounted and was at her side. She approved. Hinata could use a friend or 2 like that. As a reward. Hey kid, you've obviously been through a bit of headache. I wouldn't normally do this, but Anko played a dirty trick on me lately, and I want payback. This is a one-time alliance only, as I don't want my name linked to this at all, and I am a full shinobi and could get in a lot of trouble if caught. Naruto nodded his understanding. Fine. Here's the deal. Anko's my best friend. Naruto was once again on the defensive, but Kurenai held up her hands in a surrendering type motion. Remember what I said, I want payback. So here's a few things that no one knows about her. 2 hours later, Naruto had made his way home after stopping in at the Yamanaka Flower Emporium and had 2 dozen roses sent to Yuhi Kurenai, 1 dozen from Naruto, the other from Sarutobi Asuma, whom Naruto worked out was her secret boyfriend pretty easily. Naruto also sent word to Asuma informing him that Kurenai did something awesome for him, so this was his way of saying thank you. Asuma would remember that in the future. 1 hour later, the Hokage office. The Hokage felt his head was on fire with the massive headache of what Naruto declared loud enough to be heard in Iwa. He began to wonder if his punishment was a little too harsh. Anko stood there at attention, ready to receive her disciplinary action for having the kid train where she did at his age. But much to her surprise, she wasn't chastised. Anko, I should take action for the harsh training regime you've started Naruto on, but it seemed to have had surprisingly quick results. I took a gander at what he did in there. He managed to learn tree climbing and branch leaping in a manner of 4 hours each while killing snakes, a bear, and semi-domesticating a summoning panther. So I will simply say this to you. Naruto is going to make it his life's work to make yours a living hell from this moment forward. And I have known Naruto a very long time. He is extremely inventive. Last major prank he pulled. He managed to get into the Chunin supply warehouse and stained over 1,000 vests bright orange. I will never know how he did it. Enko's mouth dropped open a little, but then regained her composure and asked, was he ever punished? No. Two Chunin sensei at the academy pissed him off and he took revenge on all Chunin. Fortunately most Chunin still had their untarnished vest. And there was never any proof it was Naruto. None at all. And when I told you to train him, I didn't actually expect you to use Anbu as one of the methods. I am curious to see how this turns out. While this didn't concern Anko at all, she was beginning to wonder about the mental stability of the one she was tasked with bringing up to speed. 1 hour later, Naruto created 10 clones which 5 escorted Torigami home and the other 5 as his personal entourage in case more villagers wanted to start a fight with him today. He made his way upstairs and into his apartment only to find none other than Mitarashi Anko looking through his box left to him by his parents. Naruto's eyes darkened and rage overcame him as his pupils dilated from their natural blue to black slits covered by a red retina. The killing intent radiating from Naruto was felt all the way at the Anbu headquarters. A bloodlust not felt since that fateful day. Inu, who was about to go home for the day, froze in place for but a second, then gripped his kahai and vanished in a shunshin, a body flicker so fast, it would have made the Yondaime proud. Naruto's only words were, "You just went too far, snake bitch," referencing how many snakes tried to bite, maim, or kill Naruto in the forest. Sneaking into my apartment, and going through that box. Now you die. For the first time in many years, Mitarashi Anko felt fear. Naruto knew when to leave well enough alone, despite his continued veil of being a moron most of the time. The few words he shared with his favorite academy sensei Yumino Iruka the day before carried something ominous. He went to class as usual, and ignored all of the bickering, and the fangirls that swooned over the unfriendly neighborhood emo. But that is beside the point. He recently learned that he would be teamed up with said emo and Haruno Sakura. He didn't really know what to think. His anger boiled at being on a team with the Uchiha, but he had an on and off again crush on the pink-haired princess, his Sakura-chan, much to the white-eyed Hyuga's fiery ire Naruto noticed soon after his return home. After class, Naruto attempted to confront Iruka again. "You just don't know when to give up, do you?" Iruka asked, not angrily, but with obvious annoyance. "I only ask because I care." Naruto deadpanned, but Iruka could hear the sincerity behind the sarcasm. "Mizuki's fiancé, a good friend of mine, committed seppuku last night." Naruto, having only known about it by description alone, nearly upchucked his lunch, but did not as he wanted to be strong for his teacher. "I am sorry to hear that, sensei. Is there anything I can do to help? You're a good kid, Naruto, but worry about being a new genin while I worry about these particular problems." Naruto nodded and then stated, "How about I treat you to some Ichirakus later, sensei?" Iruka's jaw dropped. All pretenses of a serious conversation gone as Iruka mockingly pulled out a kunai and shook it loosely as he asked, "Where is the real Uzumaki Naruto?" That went on for another moment or two, but Naruto decided to let Iruka mourn in peace. He was just glad he was able to help distract Iruka from the pain of loss for a few moments. As that is who Uzumaki Naruto was. A friend to those in need. Or so he'd like to tell himself. 3 years prior, Naruto's anger surged like a tornado. The naturally blue aura, or life energy which resided within him, was enveloped by a cloak of red with a not so vivid shape. Before she could speak, Naruto propelled forward, which ripped his floor up beneath his feet. Upon hitting the young violet-haired woman, she disappeared in a plume of smoke, dropping the letter which she once held. "A cage bunshin," Naruto roared, as the floors and walls began to crumble in his rage. Naruto closed his eyes for a few seconds in hopes of trying to calm down. But he failed. That woman had gone too far. Naruto had never felt such rage. He didn't know how, but he felt the kunoichi of his ire's chakra trail. It reeked of fear, it being her chakra. Naruto narrowed his vision in on what was the forest he was just trapped in recently. His eyes opened. He grabbed his box to avoid further desecration of his parents' artifacts, then he leapt upward, tearing through the ceiling, and thus the roof of his apartment building. He blazed forward over rooftops like seasoned nin, a barefly visible red glow adorning his body. He finally made it to the gate at which he escaped the nightmarish hell that was what he learned was called the Forest of Death, by those who had survived its tests. Naruto sped by so quickly that he didn't even realize he tore through the Anbu traps they quickly set up to contain him. They followed at a safe distance as to not draw in civilians. Inu and his partner Tenzo took the lead as they were likely the only two outside of the Hokage who would be able to subdue Naruto without killing him. Naruto raced through the forest like a madman, almost completely lost to the hatred built inside of him. Anko on the other hand had finally regained her senses. She remembered that feeling. She knew it well. It was what killed her father nearly 10 years ago, and left her alone. She then took a moment to realize what happened. She sent a clone to the Brat's house to learn a bit more about him on a personal level as she was going to be the one to train him up for a while. She found a hidden compartment, one an Adept Academy student might have been able to find with a little trouble, but for a full-fledged shinobi. No challenge at all, but what she read could have changed the very foundations of Konoha forever. He was the son of the Yondaime Hokage, and Konoha's red-hot habanero. Anko suddenly flipped out of the way as red-encrusted fist nearly took off her head. She was disappointed in herself, but didn't have time to lament that. She flipped back again, and drew a kunai. Stop, damn it, Gaki, Anko swore. Kill her. Make her blood stain the very walls of Konoha. A voice rung out in Naruto's head. A voice he didn't quite hear, but the emotions were there, loud and filled with hatred. Fuck you. You broke into my home. You learned something that I was supposed to take to my grave. I will kill you to make sure my parents' secrets remain safe, and find a way to burn my body to powder to preserve my family's secrets. Two more figures appeared, although there were obviously more. Naruto's anger did something to him. His usually inept mindset sharpened like a finely sharpened katana. Naruto drew his own kunai, but instead of rushing forward, he placed his hands in his newly learned seal and silently called out, Kage Bunshin. 40 identical clones appeared. The one in the foremost front asked, so, he licked the flat of the blade then asked, how much blood will my blade draw this night? Without waiting for an answer, he and the group of his identical brothers nearly vanished in a burst of speed unnatural for someone of his reported skill level. The two Anbu who arrived sped forward as well and started cutting down the clones as the original stayed put. That did not sit well with Naruto, especially when he saw the mask of his supposed Nisama decimating his clones as the memories returned to him. The red cloak vanished much to everyone's relief as Naruto fell to the ground with an anguished scream. Inu-san. You traitor. Inu visibly flinched at that which was not missed by Tenzo, or the newly rescued Anko. Anko mentally noted, if the kid somehow survived this, do not mess with his stuff if she wanted to live. She wondered if he'd be that way where comrades were concerned, and decided it would be better if he was on Konoha's side than against. Naruto's box already picked up by Inu as he slowly walked over to Naruto. Tenzo already in position to activate his special and extremely rare Mokuden would release to suppress Naruto's special red aura now that he could get close enough to do so. The remaining Anbu waited outside the fence on Inu's orders. Naruto, I stopped you from killing a Konoha kunoichi. You would have been put to death if that happened, no matter what happened. I needed to try to save her life and your own. Do you understand me? He asked sternly. To his heart's relief, Naruto nodded slowly. Okay everyone, listen up. This is a shitstorm with which the village cannot deal with. I don't want to see Naruto killed, or, worse, put under Danzo's special program. We know it still exists despite the so-called dismissal of it 20-odd years ago. Naruto was only trying to keep his heritage safe because we know what the Sandaime is willing to do to keep this secret. I am as loyal to the Leaf as one can be, but Naruto is destined for much more than what he's been allowed in life so far. He's been treated like a pariah, the civilian council has too much power in Konoha, and I am tempted to accept my seat on the Shinobi Council, thus leaving Anbu to protect Naruto. You know just how much the Jonin Commander, Anbu Commander, and Hokage would love to lose me in Anbu. Not many competent captains left. Tenzu was loyal to Konoha, and the Hokage, but he could not forget how Kakashi moved heaven and earth for him, his Kahai to free him from the evil machinations of Danzo many years ago. I will back you senpai, but don't make me go against Konoha. I might have to perform seppuku first, he said in all seriousness. Inu turned to Anko but was stopped before he could ask. She turned to Naruto said, I know the importance of the secrets you hold Gaki. I will take those secrets to the grave until the Hokage declassifies that information. It is something. A large group of shinobi appear and surround Inu, Tenzo, Anko, and Naruto with the Hokage leading the group. Take Naruto into custody and place chakra suppression seals on him. One overzealous Anbu member appeared behind Naruto and punched the top of his head, knocking him out. Inu was upon him with his tanto out, and nearly sliced his head off, if not for the command, hold Inu. Inu held, and the Anbu in question retreated to what he considered a safe distance. Should any try to harm this boy, they will discover why I am listed as, flee on sight, in every major village's bingo book. Take my words lightly, and you may forfeit your life this evening. Inu. The Hokage roared. Much to Inu's surprise, his masked companion stepped forward, as well as Anko. Another Anbu snidely said, I always knew the snake bitch was a traitorous whore. Just like your mama, right? Anko replied deadpan. I am about as much of a traitor to the leaf as a newborn child whose choices in life were taken away from him because of the circumstances of his birth. I don't owe the brat anything now that I think about it, but after learning a few things, I cannot in good conscience leave his side. I will protect him, she declared quietly as she raised her kunai. Naruto's face lighting up as he saw people blatantly fighting for him for the first time. People that actually cared for him, and did more than just said empty words and gave empty promises. Enough Anko, the Sandame said, not unkindly, but with an authority with decades of practiced patience. We will be taking the boy in. I have discovered that he knows things he should not at this age, and must do all I can to ensure he forgets them, distancing himself as much as possible from Naruto so he would not mentally break down and give in to his inner grandfather. I'm sorry Hokage-sama, but you know I can't allow that to happen, considering his particular situation. It could destroy his mind, or the Yamanakas who'd try the technique. This is not up for debate Inu, he said a bit more harshly. No it's not, Inu said as if he was taking an afternoon stroll. He lifted his Hitai-ite. Every member of Anbu by the Hokage's side took a single step back. Anko, Tenzo and Inu went into different stances. Ninjutsu seals, taijutsu positions respectively. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. He really didn't want to lose those three, but he would take Naruto back by force if he needed to. Finally fed up, he simply lifted his hand, and a horde of Anbu and Jonin hidden in the back flew forward like the fiercest of rabid animals. Naruto watched as kunai clashed, katana slashed flak jackets, and shuriken fly through the air at amazing speeds. He finally decided he could no longer do nothing. He thought back on the few tactical lessons he learned in the scroll he took from his parents' estate. He crossed his fingers in anger as he looked at the Hokage. This did not go unseen by Hiruzen. With a saddened heart, he cracked his knuckles as Naruto called out, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Upward of 1,000 clones appeared and raced toward trees, punching and kicking. Enemy, shinobi as fast and as furiously as his 10-year-old body could. He and his clone army, those that were left started climbing up the trees, and made it up as high as they could. Naruto ordered them into attack. The remaining 200 clones attacked from the sky while his ground forces kept them from being noticed as much as possible. Naruto's eyes teared up at the idea of fighting his Jiji, the man who had protected him. But tonight he was being treated like some sort of tool or weapon. Naruto grabbed his head in pain from the backlash of so many clones being dispelled at once. But he was determined to not give up. Naruto, the Sandame called out from slightly across the field. You must stop this. You know the Kage Bunshin is a dangerous technique that you obviously aren't ready for. Let me help you. Fuck you old man, Naruto screamed, his tears now covered his face. You lied to me, told me you didn't know who my parents were. I had to accidentally find out by a scratch letting me into the Uzumaki compound. A drop of blood was all it took to tell me everything I needed. I also read up on how to change it just enough that blood is no longer enough to open it. The secrets of my clan are for me and me alone. The moment Naruto revealed that, the Sandame's grandfatherly veneer vanished, and he raced forward at imperceptible velocity. He was upon Naruto, who brought his hands up in a protective position above his head. Before the Sandame could do anything, Inu appeared before him at equal speeds and sliced downward with his Tonto. The Sandame managed to flip out of the way, barely. Inu, otherwise known as Hitaki Kakashi. You have attacked your Hokage. You know the sentence, he said sadly. Execute him. Damn it, senpai. I told you not to put me in compromising positions. Tenzo complained as he stood side by side with his oldest and dearest friend. Inu, now identified as Kakashi, quickly raced through a long sequence of hand seals before the first shinobi could get within 10 feet, and he called out, Suiden, Great Water Dragon no Jutsu. A small riverbank was near, and Kakashi managed to call forth a dragon with a small waterfall's worth from the lake. The mighty beast-like apparition descended like the hand of Kami, delivering his swift and righteous wrath. Even the Hokage was thrown back in surprise that Kakashi had that kind of power. Before another move could be made, a loud thunderous whistling sound could be heard. It got louder and louder as an equally thunderous voice could be heard, Konoha's bringing down the house jutsu. Scatter, Anko ordered her group, and the Hokage's group did the same as they knew what was coming. A massive figure fell through the sky and slammed onto the ground, and the shock waves sent everyone flying back. The massive figure's appearance, now clear as a toad of the Myoboku clan, drew a large naginata and slammed it into the ground as another figure leapt off of the top of Sad Toad's head. Landing, this tall, long white-haired man landed with a thundering roar of his own. His covered in the markings of the legendary Sennin, or sage mode of the Gamma toads. His nose exaggerated in size and warts visible due to his technique. This man took a quick glance around, and upon seeing the Hokage, and focused on the older man as he asked, Where is he, sensei? We can talk after this situation is handled. Jiraiya. Kakashi has turned traitor, and it seems as if Anko and Tenzo have joined him. Ignoring his Hokage's words, he asked again, but with a much darker tone. Where is my godson? I won't ask a third time, sensei. Sarutobi froze in shock from his most loyal student's behavior. Jiraiya Daichichi, a small voice asked from behind Kakashi, who was still on guard. Jiraiya sighed. Yeah, kid. And before you ask, I was ordered to stay out of the village and away from you to protect you. I am breaking the Hokage's law to be here now, but I have the daimyo's backing to which not even the Hokage can stand against. Hiruzen's old eyes narrowed as he asked, What is the meaning of this? A few days ago a seal appeared on my arm. That seal was made by Kushina and placed on me as a fail-safe in case something ever happened to her in Minato. If the family property was not touched for over a year, and then someone gained access, then Naruto was likely still alive. You kept me away from the village to keep this hidden from me. Be glad that Tsunade has not been made aware yet. His voice still cold, but it wasn't that which made the old Hokage shiver. It was the thought of his other remaining friendly student Tsunade that he feared. Especially if she found out he had hidden Naruto from her. I was on my way back when I decided to take in a quick stop with my old friend the daimyo. We drank for a bit until the tale of Namikaze Minato and Kushina Uzumaki was finished. I explained the difference between the refrigerator and food inside it. Jiraiya stated carefully, and after 3 days of correspondence by summons and Inu informing me of what Naruto has been through, the daimyo was more than willing to grant me these official decrees. He took out and tossed over to his sensei. Said sensei could tell they were copies, as Jiraiya was not stupid. Jiraiya then continued, anyone seen as helping Naruto, especially in his time of need, will forego any charges, and be granted a commendation for their bravery considering what he holds. Hiruzen was seething. He truly did love Naruto, but could no one else see that he was doing this for the boy's safety? Jiraiya intervened before that argument could be made. I can see you are torn, sensei. But know that I am aware of how much you care for him. But your methods were meant for a time of war. We are not in wartime, sensei. Save that sort of thinking for the old war hawk Danzo. I am taking Naruto and his bodyguards here out of Konoha for a while until things cool down. Stay off the Uzumaki property. I will reinforce the seals as well. Tsunade will be glad to hear she has a family member left. That bit of information caught most of the nin there off guard. The demon was related to one of the legendary Sannin. The granddaughter of the first Hokage himself. Her grandmother was an Uzumaki after all. Jiraiya reminded. Hiruzen had no choice but to acquiesce to his student's demands. There were far too many witnesses to make it all disappear quietly. Naruto will return in a year or two. I will have made sure he learns what he will have needed to in the academy as well as a few other tricks to give him an edge. You need to get your house in order, sensei, or find someone else to wear the hat. Jiraiya walked over toward Naruto. Jiraiya walked past Kakashi, who was in a bit of shock. He placed his hand down to the area where Naruto had been knocked back by the crash of the giant toad. Naruto took the offered hand as he said, "Hello, Naruto." Naruto's eyes teared up joyfully as he jumped forward and wrapped his arms around Jiraiya's torso. "Hello, Godfather." The world spun for the young Uzumaki as he gripped the white-haired sage with all of his might. The warrior was accompanied by a purple-haired, fiery beauty, a wood-controlling shinobi, and a silver-haired vengeance personified. The newly formed Team Jiraiya crushed multiple attempts to prevent them from leaving Konoha as a stunned Hokage stood in shock. His longtime friend Danzo took command temporarily until Hiruzen came back to his senses. Upon doing so, he ordered the chase ended as it was a direct decree by the daimyo. He only hoped Naruto would one day forgive him for the choices he made. 12 long hours later, Hinata capital, Daimyo Palace. Naruto was allowed to sleep until he awoke of his own volition. His young eyes fluttered and tried to focus despite being in a massive, dark, barely lit room. His first instinct was to jump back and into a fighting position. His only company, who was hidden in a shadow, smiled as he slowly walked out. Naruto felt for his shuriken pouch, and found it still there. He gripped it quickly and drew two respectively and summoned 10 Kage Bunshin as he commanded, "Identify yourself. Your parents would be proud of your instincts, Gaki," the baritone voice stated as he stepped fully out of the shadows. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he tried to place the familiar face, then he took in a quick breath as he said, "Godfather. It's me, little one. You are safe now. I will make sure you stay safe now, for as long as I am breathing. I am sorry I wasn't there for you in your younger days, but I was protecting you from the threats outside of Konoha. Your father and mother had enemies who would have burned Konoha to the ground to get to you if they found out you were alive to avenge their loved ones your parents killed in the previous war." Naruto slowly placed his kunai back in their pouch as he sat on the bed and looked downtrodden. "I trusted the old man." Tears started to fall. "Don't count that old monkey out yet. He must think of the village first as he is the Hokage, but I can honestly say he cares for you. Otherwise, there would have been a lot more shinobi sent out to attack us and made our journey here much harder." That made Naruto's eyes widen slightly. "Thank you for that, Godfather. It's good to know he didn't entirely hate me and just put on a show for the demon boy." Jiraiya was a little shocked at that last part, but was stopped before he could ask. "I found documents my father left which, on top of everything else, it wasn't hard to put together. I had the fox put inside of me." Jiraiya rubbed his suddenly aching head. "You are not the fox, Naruto. It would take too long to explain the intricacies of sealing to you this evening. But the long and short of it is, you are a bottle with a cap on the top. The fox is the liquid sealed inside of the jar. You understand?" Naruto slowly nodded his understanding. He again hugged his godfather, who wasn't used to such genuine familial affection, but he couldn't help but to hold on to his godson as if he'd never hold him again. For the first time in many years, Jiraiya felt a sense of family, and he would be damned if he let that feeling go. "Excuse me, but where are we anyway?" Naruto finally asked, noting he didn't recognize ever seeing such a nice room before, not that he'd been invited to many nice places. "We are in the imperial palace of the daimyo of Hinata." Jiraiya saw the confused look on Naruto's face before simplifying it by saying, "The Hokage's boss." Naruto's already saucer-sized eyes nearly bulged out of his head at that tidbit. Jiraiya chuckled slightly at that. "He heard about how bad you were being treated and insisted you be brought here to be trained in the ninja arts. Old school training, not that crap they teach in the academy. That way you can defend yourself." To Jiraiya's surprise, Naruto interrupted him with the oddest request. "Will I be able to return?" Jiraiya's heart nearly froze at that. "Why in Kami's name would you go back after the way people treated you? I still have a few people in Konoha who I looked up to and looked after me. I will become Hokage and make changes in that rat hole of a village, and make it something our daimyo can be proud of." Jiraiya's pride in his godson soared beyond the mortal coil. He knew what he had to do. He would teach his godson how to be the most fearsome shinobi the world had ever known. He would leave Minato's former legacy in the dust. His godson had what he respected the most in a ninja: guts. After a few more minutes of connecting with his godson, he wished him a good night and met up with the daimyo, who insisted on speaking to Jiraiya after Naruto woke. The daimyo's conference room, and he should not be allowed to go back to that shithole until it's been cleaned up and a new Hokage has been put in place. The daimyo ranted at how the young Namikaze had been treated. Not wanting to betray his sensei, despite his own anger, Jiraiya stated, "I don't think it's all on Sarutobi Hiruzen. I know you have a vested interest in Naruto's well-being, your grace, but I must ask that you hold back your wrath, sir." "Hold back my wrath?" The daimyo exploded. "My wrath is held back. If not, I would have ordered your secret forces directly under me to burn Konoha to cinders, Jiraiya." "Please, sir," Jiraiya pleaded fiercely, "don't make me do that to my home. I will make them see reason. Or at least those who matter." The daimyo had rarely ever seen Jiraiya lose his composure under any circumstances. That slowed his tirade to a stop. He took his seat again and sighed, took a sip of his imported wine as he tried to compose himself. "Damn it, Jiraiya, I will not be seen as weak as letting someone of his pedigree get treated like dirt. He is of royal blood, directly descended from the fucking Uzumaki clan of Uzushiogakure no Sato, an ally of Konoha before its untimely fall." The daimyo took a deep breath and then, after a moment of consideration, he ordered, "This is my proclamation as the daimyo of Hai no Kuni. Uzumaki Naruto is now a ward of the palace Hai no Kuni. He is granted royal protection from those that would harm him in Konoha, and those outside its gates and borders. He will be trained by you in Fuinjutsu in remembrance of his family, and other arts by you and those you brought with you. He will also be trained by my personal guard in swordsmanship and diplomacy. He wants to go back to Konoha one day. Fine. I want him well educated, and I want him strong enough to take the fucking Hokage seat if I deem it by the time he would have graduated the academy." Jiraiya tried to take a step back out of shock, but fell backwards into the coat of knight's armor and nearly had his head split from the axe said coat held. After a few moments, Jiraiya managed to regain his footing. He didn't know how he would accomplish what was necessary, but was smart enough to not tell that to the daimyo. Jiraiya was sweating as he received a nod. An obvious dismissal. 2 weeks later, the 12 Guardians Training Ground 2. Faster Naruto. Jiraiya called as he sent another sweep Naruto's way, who did a backflip to a handstand, then back to his feet to avoid his godfather's insane speed. Naruto was bloodied, bruised, and pissed. "What the fuck is wrong with you, you evil bastard? I thought you were supposed to be my godfather, not my abuser." Jiraiya had been pushing Naruto extremely hard, and got on the other senseis for being too lenient on him. But Naruto's words really caused him to pause. They really hit a sore spot, and hurt him deeply. "Abuser." Jiraiya stopped his attack and asked sadly. "Yes, abuser. I know you told the daimyo you would whip me into shape for some reason, but I have gotten beat by you more than I ever got back home. I have had to be healed by the palace medic Nin every day for 2 weeks. Naruto retorted angrily, but stopped upon noticing Jiraiya's face. He usually didn't wear his emotions so openly, but he looked torn to Naruto's young eyes. "Okay, maybe I have been pushing you to the breaking point. Maybe." Naruto spat rhetorically. Jiraiya knew that if he didn't tell Naruto something he would lose the little trust he'd established with the boy. He sat down and motioned for Naruto to do the same. Naruto released his angry stance, and sat across from Jiraiya. "Look, Naruto, I'm sorry if I am pushing you more than you think I should, but the daimyo wants you strong enough to take Konoha by storm when you go back for the genin exams. He wants you strong enough to take on a certain super powerful jonin. I am reluctant to tell you, but it might inspire you. He wants you to be at a Sennin level. We of the legendary 3 are each strong enough to take on the hat of the Hokage." Naruto's look of utter shock was replaced by one of utter defiance. His injuries were not bad enough to need the medic, so his inner healing method kicked in and he was back to 80%. He flipped up onto his feet and said, "What are you waiting for? Move it, old man." While Jiraiya felt slightly insulted at being called old, being barely 50, but chuckled slightly at Naruto's quick change of attitude. But he nearly blew out the back of his pants at his godson's next movement and words. Naruto flipped back again to gain a bit of room for a second and placed his hands in a crossed half-ram formation and narrowed his eyes as he nearly screamed out, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow, thinking this had to be a joke. The joke was when over 300 Narutos appeared around him and Jiraiya's heart nearly burst out of his chest at the amount of chakra required to create one shadow clone. Group yourselves into 20s, Naruto ordered. Once the stubborn clones realized their creator was in no mood for games after looking around and seeing the amount of their brothers, they fell into step. Good job boys. I need you, Group 1 to find Kakashi ni and force him to train you in ninjutsu. If he doesn't, steal his orange book, and warn him I have tons of chakra left, so if he destroys you all, I will send more and more until he relents. Clear. Crystal clear sir. They called back enthusiastically as they would get to mess with their new perverted older brother. Naruto realized how much of a pervert his brother was as he glanced at Kakashi's open book on his nightstand when he was tasked with waking him up as part of Anko's training. Group 2. Find Yamato and ask him to help on your base swordsmanship skills until the 12 are free to help. Group 3. Find Anko and have her help with stealth and etiquette classes. Upon hearing stealth, the group was excited, but remembered Anko's last etiquette class and groaned. No whining. You all heard what our arrow godfather said right. The daimyo wants us to be strong enough to hold my own against someone like Gigi. Do you want to be the reason we failed the daimyo? The one who is letting us live in a freaking palace. The one who is letting us live here. Or do you want to go home unprepared, where the barely above average civilian can whip our asses and take what's ours? No sir, was the expected answer. Naruto just didn't expect such a fierce reply, but after a few seconds of thought, he realized they were him, and he was pissed at his past circumstances. He thrust his fist in the air and yelled, we will become the best Hokage Konohagakure no Sato has ever had, and will make it shine like a star upon the maps of the world. The next group was sent to work on calligraphy, and another to work on chakra control exercises Jiraiya suggested. After everyone was finally in place he also mentioned, have your clones disperse a little at a time. Too many sending info back at once could fry your brain. A chill went down Naruto's spine, but he carefully created 5 more clones and sent them off to get the word out. Jiraiya-sama, a young warrior in training called as he raced over to him, nearly out of breath. Daimyo sent me with this pouch of jewels and... Slow down kid, breathe, Jiraiya suggested good-naturedly. The young man nodded in appreciation and took a few seconds to catch his breath before continuing. The great monolith, our king and master, the daimyo Kirito-sama has requested that you bring Tsunade here to assist with Master Namikaze's training. Uzumaki, Naruto interrupted ubruptly. His eyes sharp and unrelenting. I'm sorry, the young man asked confused. My father is of the house Namikaze. He sighed, but I have been in Uzumaki all of my life. I will honor my mother's clan by keeping the name I have grown accustomed to. I am Uzumaki Naruto of the Uzumaki clan, he said quietly, but with a fierceness which left no room to argue. Well said young man, a voice said from behind him. Naruto swung around and flipped backwards and into a defensive position. Who are you, and how did you sneak up on me? Naruto asked as he pulled out a kunai. Jiraiya was upon Naruto and quickly took the kunai much to Naruto's shock. Naruto, it's not nice to attack our host and leader of all of Hai no Kuni. He said in hopes the daimyo found the even humorous. I approve Jiraiya, but I should not have been able to sneak up on him. I was only trained up to a high-level chunin in skill level before I was required to take over as daimyo. Jiraiya's shoulders sank, but daimyo or not, Jiraiya had to make something clear. Please forgive my impertinence daimyo-sama, but your expectations of Naruto being Kage-level shinobi in 3 years is nearly impossible, even with his insane Kage Bunshin method he just revealed. Maybe Hai Jonin. If, and only if we don't allow him to have any more of his childhood and fill it only with training. Daimyo Kirito was slightly pissed, especially since Jiraiya brought this up in front of Naruto, but found wisdom in the sage's words. He lowered his head slightly in thought. After a moment he said, you are right. We shall push young Master Nami, but stopped in slight amusement at the young Uzumaki's glare. Excuse me, I must have misspoke. I meant young Master Uzumaki's training. I will personally assist with the political details of ruling as those laws were pounded into my head. Naruto sighed as he didn't like decisions being made for him, but fell into step. This was the man who wanted him to possibly take over as the next Hokage. He turned toward the daimyo and looked directly into his eyes defiantly before kneeling, lowering his head in submission and stating, "I live to serve the daimyo and Hi no Kuni. I thank you for your kindness and generosity, sire. I will never forget it." The daimyo knew it took a lot for the boy to submit like that. He felt that Naruto meant every word and his betting on the boy would pay off 100-fold in the long run. A few short minutes after the daimyo left, Jiraiya bit his finger and drew a little blood and performed the requisite hand seals and slammed the bloodied hand on the ground as he called out, "Kuchio's no jutsu." A human-sized puff of smoke appeared and revealed a majestic-looking toad with twin katana. One on each side. The toad glances around and takes note of Jiraiya and Naruto. "Oh, hello there, Jiraiya-san. I hope all is well with you. Though I wonder why you'd summon someone as clumsy as me to assist you with whatever it is you are in need of help with. I need you to deliver a message to Tsunade for Megamaken. She is in Tanzuka-gai Province for at least the next 2 weeks. Give her these, and tell her she will get more after a visit to the daimyo's estate. It's important, and her coffers would look a little better spilling over with a little extra money." Jiraiya explained as he handed over a very small satchel with 3 formidably sized diamonds in them. Time skipped. 3 weeks later. Naruto atop the first 3 steps before a flat surface pointed angrily at Tsunade as he screamed, "Take it back." Tsunade rolled her eyes, and prepared to walk off, not expecting much of the little gaki. Naruto flipped over her head and brought his foot down in a powerful heel kick. Tsunade easily sidestepped the attack, but was caught off guard at the indentation on the ground thanks to the training seals his parents made. Naruto flipped back again, and grabbed on of the training swords from the area he'd set aside just an hour prior after his practice with the Eternal Genin, Maruboshi Kosuke, who'd agreed to give him a few free lessons as he was escorting the Hyuga delegation to meet with the daimyo. Naruto's eyes flashed red for but a second as he once again demanded, "Take it back." His voice nearly an octave deeper than it should have been, menace dripping from every word, but Tsunade was not one of the legendary 3 for no reason. Tsunade released a formidable amount of killing intent, enough to make even a few of the daimyo's weaker elite guard trainees nearly fall over. Naruto was brought to his knees. He saw his very nightmares of being killed in 100 of different ways. Naruto gritted his teeth and forced himself up and placed the sword in a forward-thrusting position as he said for the last time, "Take it back. Nobody insults the fucking Hokage of the Hidden Leaf in my presence."